to another episode of Buffalo Happy Hour. Mike, what's going on?
Derek, I'm exhausted. You made me travel 29 floors up into the sky.
We walked all of them.
Yeah, that's right, with all the equipment. But no, so we are with our friends, and we have a niche, however you want to say it, because there's like 40 debates on how to say that correctly, business. So let's dive into what you guys do, but first we'll start with introductions, names, official like titles per se, and then the company name.
Okay. I'm Drew from High Peaks Aerial Imagery. This is Dan.
I'm Dan. I'm the FPV pilot at High Peaks Aerial Imagery.
Oh, yeah. I guess I'm the owner, operator, a little bit of everything. Yeah.
So you said FPV. Are there different types of drones?
There are. So I'm like a cinematic drone, more of like typical be like a DJI style drone. They also have workhorse drones, which would be like delivery drones. Like the bad guy drones in like a James Bond movie.
Yeah. Or like Parks and Rec when they start delivering stuff from... Yeah.
Exactly like Parks and Rec.
It's weird. Yes. And that's probably where people get the whole shooting out of the sky thing from, too.
Yeah, that's like a DJI Inspire, so that's like probably exactly what they use for that.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So there's cinematic, and then there's FPV, and then there's workhorse. Those are the three main big ones?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's other programs. There's the mapping and whatnot he can go into a little bit, but generally speaking... I'd say those are the three categories.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Maybe like heavy lifters for, big movies that carry 100-pound, $100,000 cameras, but you definitely hit it.
What does FPV stand for?
It stands for first-person view.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
And what it is there's two cameras. I use a Gopro for the HD camera, and then there's a little camera down in the front that is my eyes, and I wear a pair of goggles that puts me right inside of it. And you're able to get a more immersive shot, get closer to objects, go through, tight gaps, stuff that you wouldn't normally do, like flying line of sight,
Yeah.
He's a bit of a mad scientist, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's really cool, though.
I would crash so quickly. But when you do that, how, do you kind of grasp what you can fly through and what you can't? Do you scope out the environment beforehand, or do you just YOLO it?
It depends. If I'm just flying for fun, I usually just YOLO it. But if we're doing a shot or a gig, we make sure we're being 100% safe. So I'll walk around, make sure I have the right connection. First, that my drone can fit through the actual object we're flying through or what have you. So yeah, there's definitely some ways to mitigate the risk.
Now the actual camera for the FPV is not high quality at all, right? Isn't it really grainy?
It's like a 720p.
Okay.
So
it's better than I thought
pretty
it was.
So this is a digital system as opposed to analog, which is the grainy, security cam type view you're talking about. Now they have a digital system that it's 720p, so it's pretty good. And there's no latency. Whatever you do, you're seeing it like 20 milliseconds later.
Oh, that's sweet. So what made you bring on FPV if you were doing cinematic stuff from the start?
It's actually funny that you asked
I'll
that.
let you take that.
Yeah, I actually didn't want to at all. It was just one of those things that we were like, absolutely not. Like, I tried to pitch it a couple times, and most of the clients were like, half the time you have to explain it to them,
Sure.
and then by the time you're done explaining to them, they're just like, I don't know why we'd ever need that, not realizing how common they probably see it on TV or anything like that. But he just messaged me the one day, kind of had a little bit of information about his experience, and once I went to his page, it was like, okay, I mean, we can maybe make this work somehow. And again, we've talked about this a little bit before, but the way that he is doing this as kind of a passion for himself, it's like we have a lot of fun looking at something and trying to create something magical. It's not just let's film this house or let's film this street because everybody loves this street downtown or whatever. It's like trying to do something that's like, oh my God, can you believe how that just turned out?
Yeah, I totally agree.
So once we did that one time, I think it was the ships. That was the first flight.
Yep.
And it was like we climbed to the top of the missile housing where they don't even let people do the tour. And he's got to ground himself because he's in the goggles. So I'm always worried oh my God, he's gonna fall.
Yeah.
We've got to tether him to something. But he sent me that first footage that day, and it was just like, all right, well, this is something special. Because that's what you'll find with a lot of our competitors is they don't have, it's either one way or the other. And I don't know. I mean, I can think of one person right now that does FPV professionally.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to find where it works too, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not an every situation thing to do, right? So what do you guys specialize in? When you first started this business, first of all, what were you doing before you started this business?
I was selling construction parts, or at least learning to do so when the pandemic hit, and ended up losing the job, low man on the totem pole, and just trying to find something to do. The pandemic was just crazy for us, and I had flown a drone before, but I'd never had a quality one. Every one I had was like no gimbal, camera just looked horrifying. You thought you were going to lose it every 2 minutes. So, I ended up getting something of quality, and it just kind of built up till, like I said, I thought I was going to be taking photos of people's houses and property, and one thing led to another. We're doing mainly business advertisement. So it's like, digital creation, advertising, plug and play social media content. I mean, especially right now, people are so short-staffed.
Right.
They don't have time to be like creating advertising, and even if they can, they don't have $3,000 to be spending,
On equipment.
Or traditional ad agencies.
Yeah.
So they're doing the marketing themselves, but having to make that themselves. So,
Yeah.
So is that was that kind of you reaching out to these businesses to see if they needed help, or were they really reaching out to you?
yeah. So honestly, it was not I created everything. Like, there was nobody that wanted to talk to us. There was no opportunity anywhere. It was just, okay, this isn't even going to work. It was like, you're just some guy with a drone. And then, like I said, I had a buddy that needed help with a food truck that he had. We were like, all right, we could do a commercial for him, and then ended up getting in touch with another guy with a food truck that actually brought us on to do like a traditional job.
Oh, okay.
And we did content for him. We did photography for his food truck. And once other businesses seen what we could do, it just exploded from there.
That's awesome.
But I have to say, like, he's a big part of the equation. Like, I don't think that what we have works without, it's like a yin-yang. Because we are so different in how we fly, what we're flying, the type of drone, and the footage that's coming out of it, that it's helping us create, like, a very unique product.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. The FPV and like a stable camera drone is just such a good marriage.
So when you're flying regular drones versus FPV, what are the battery life limitations on both of those?
So for me, FPV, I usually get, like if we're really stretching it, 6 minutes max.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild. So how do you even like plan out your day to make sure you record it correctly?
It's not easy. We usually walk through first and make sure we know exactly what we're doing, when we're doing it, where the subjects are, if there is any. Because I usually bring like 8 batteries. So
okay.
It's a little bit, but once you run through a couple shots, it's less than it seems like.
That would stress me out, knowing that I only have 6 minutes to do what I need to.
I just feel like it's really coming down to the planning process where you have an idea in your head about what the shot would look like, but then you really only have like 8 shots at getting the shot.
Yeah.
And that's 8 different batteries.
We do plan for this. So, like, takes different batteries for the different drones. So, in theory, if he ran out of the one, he could attempt to get the shot from another. We also have my stuff. But what's more nerve-wracking, I would say, is when I'll message him and be like, oh, are you ready for this big job? And he'll be like, yeah, I'll charge the batteries in the morning. It's like, the job's at like 8 o'clock. And he's like, oh, it's going to be fine. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? Like, are they all going to be charged? Like, yeah, no, it's fine. Like,
They'll be good.
Yeah, he's like the calm water all the time. He's like, it's fine. Like, we're good. Okay.
So are FPV drones, they're relatively new, right?
They've been around for, I'd say, like 2012 they first started coming out, but they were like these big, giant, floppy, I mean, you were wrestling with it just to keep it in the air. And then they've slowly progressed throughout the years of the technology, and now we're at the point where it looks like a lot to put together, but you have to know a little bit of soldering. And other than that, you put them together and everything kind of marriages well with the different softwares and everything.
Is it always a do-it-yourself system? Like, you have to put it together yourself?
You can buy bind-and flies, but they're just a little more pricey.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And you're going to crash and you're going to break it. So the best thing, my best advice is to learn how to build it yourself so you know how to fix it.
Good point.
That's really good.
Because one of my questions is, like, are there manufacturers like Ford, Chevy, like there's staple names for different industries, and does that exist in the drone world?
It's tough, right? Like DJI technically has like
Yeah.
the monopoly. There's like an Autel brand that's a good one. They make like an Evo.
Okay.
But like realistically, it isn't like comparable for anybody. Like DJI is the drone. But like what he was, I'm sure about to say is with the FPV, it's a little bit different scenario. If you buy their ready to go FPV, there are benefits. You get a longer battery and stuff, but it is not really a traditional FPV. Like you're not getting the same.
You're talking about the DJI actual FPV drone?
DJI makes one like you're asking, where you could just buy it and learn FPV tomorrow, but it's not what he's like. I think the experience, if you learned off of a custom built one, would be very different than something you get off the store.
So the quality is the same. Are you saying the quality is even different?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
This brings me back to like paintball guns, where there were staple brands that you would kind of stick to, but then you would always upgrade like your triggers or different components, and then your custom paintball gun would just rip. And it wouldn't even like
That's a good
it
way
would
to
just
put it.
yeah, it would just destroy the normal paintball guns you could buy at like Dick's or whatever that are great and they come out of a package, but at the end of the day you can just really throw some balls down range. So
Yeah.
you guys have different drones for different shots, for different clients, for different businesses, and all of that. How do you keep your brain fresh where it's a cool shot each time, so you're not basically like a dry sponge on a creative level?
For me, I try to get out and fly for fun still.
Is it?
I
Okay.
just go, there's a few parks I go to where I just throw some headphones on and I fly freestyle, which is like doing flips and doing different tricks and different maneuvers. And that, I think, keeps it fresh for when I'm doing like a cinematic job, because it all blends together. A lot of the cinematic stuff kind of blends together.
Yeah.
Do you have different processes when you do film something cinematic that like you have to make sure you're on a certain setting? Are there settings with this stuff?
Yeah, like with my drone, the cinematic stuff, there's a million things you can do. There's automated shots that you
Sure.
can, come loaded depending on which drone you have. So it is a different process, and we do tend to go through like a changeover where part of it will do his stuff, part of it will do mine, and then everything will be like post-editing for marrying what looks good together and what spot. So it's tough sometimes though, because I'm more of the business side of it, where like I'm speaking to the customer, I'm getting their vision, and then we're going back to Dan and saying, hey, like this is what we were thinking we could do. I already have an idea in my head of like, well, what is his capabilities? We always joke around because of the air show that just happened, and it's like he's like the Blue Angels of the situation. We know the tricks he can do. So it's just kind of like I'm building my own air show where we just talk to somebody and say, hey, listen, I think it would be cool if we showed off this place doing this. And then they have in their head secretly, because it always comes out like, oh, what if you did this? What if you did that? And you're like, oh. So you are a fan. I see.
Are there warranties on these? Because within 5 minutes of your first or third flight, you're just going to careen yourself into a tree.
For any type of stuff like that, no. Like, say if you get a flight controller or an ESC, it's electronic speed control, it's what controls the motor. Say if you get a new one of those and throw it in, if it doesn't work, yeah.
Okay.
If it's like a manufacturer.
Component specific, but not just because you're a blowhard and fly into a building.
Yeah, I call the company and say, hey, my arm's broken in half. They're going to say, well,
Yeah, they know why.
I'll give you a link for a new one.
But it's also, partly the type of drone. Like his are much more durable than mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if mine hits the ground, chances are it's not getting back up.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, the DJI ones are made of mostly plastic. There's a lot of, very light components to it. The FAA actually restricts drones based on their weight. So I think that being a Chinese manufacturer, they're good at, like, having things that meet certain criteria to try to get around certain loopholes for the consumer or the prosumer market. So, you hit like the smallest branch. One of the bigger ones we talked about, the Air 2, seems to be more durable. I've had some situations where I try to go a little far and he'll be like in a spot and like we'll like go down from like a little tiny branch and everything's fine. But I've killed a mini once.
Oh yeah.
And one time I had a drone flight that went down where I had to actually use like black box data to find it in the woods.
Really?
Yeah, it took like an hour and we had to use a map. It was crazy. And it was exactly where data said that it crashed. It would like
Oh, that's
literally
cool.
when you got within a foot of it, you could see like pieces of the drone in the trees, and then when you got to the crash
treasure
site, there was like part of it over here. I was like, oh my god! I was like so all upset. It was emotional.
Yeah, it's like the NTSB
It
walking
was,
around.
Yeah, I had like a jacket and a clipboard. I was pissed.
So what is that weight range? Is it anything over 400 grams has to get registered?
It's under 55 grams.
Under 55 grams
Yeah.
is free to roam.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the only thing that they make currently that's under the weight limit, I believe, is the Mini 1. I don't know that maybe the Mini 2 meets the requirement, but in March the FAA changed the rules. So like right now they have I have the license. I don't know what they called it, but there's like a recurring knowledge exam that they want you
Gotcha.
to take, but it's not like licensing.
Okay.
You know, you would still need it even if you were an amateur, like just hobbyist now.
Yeah, it's for continued education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Does it cost money every time or no?
No, and to be honest with you,
That's
the
surprising.
licensed portion for like me for a pilot's license is now free too.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
why they made it free because it cost money up until March, but they did, which is a positive. That's one thing I guess I will give the FAA credit for is like they have a period where they will actually take what pilots say into account. Like they'll say like, all right, we're gonna put out these rules, and then everybody's like, oh my god, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they'll like take all the comment. They have like a comment period where they actually listen to it.
That's
you
pretty
know,
sweet.
So, but there's some weird changes coming up.
And speaking on that, on the business side of things, I can't believe I just said unreal. I know we
Is
should
it
be
because
better.
of me?
We should be better.
I'm an-
no,
I'm
no, it's
unmasked.
Derek's stressing me out because I'm so high up. So, anyways, what is the FAA's rules on sleep for drone pilots? Do they want X amount before or after flights like they do commercial pilots?
I don't think so.
They're definitely no.
I'm convinced they
is
have to
awesome.
talk about it. They have to
there's
talk about it.
Definitely time restrictions on that, but I don't know that there's specifics. Again, I should probably know this off the top of my head. I don't know that there's a specific hourly number, but there's definitely the same exact flight standards that they would from like a pilot. I believe it's 8 hours because I know that like alcohol, I can't fly a drone, for example, and have had alcohol within 8 hours of that flight. So it's the same thing.
Within 8 hours?
Yeah, within 8 hours.
So
Same
we
with a
literally-
regular
okay,
pilot.
so
Like
we
your
literally
regu-
we can't use a drone ever because we're
Our podcast
like,
is around alcohol.
literally, yeah, we're certified bourbon stewards that focus on whiskey. And
That's a good point. Yeah, you probably would run into some issues with that. It would be like, how does that work?
But if we do it beforehand, we would be fine.
I know. Yeah, you just
yeah,
wouldn't be able to
yeah.
do two in the same day, right?
yeah, we have time for that.
To space it out.
Really. So that's fast. How would they even regulate that? They can't.
So I think a lot of the stuff that we go through is
Honor system.
Is honor system, or I mean, we've seen it recently throughout the pandemic. There was somebody that I actually warned that was crazy. I was like, hey, you know, you might want to have a license because I had seen a video where they were saying like the FAA's got nothing to do during the pandemic, so they're just watching YouTube videos and then taking that person's name and putting it in the database and then like, calling him like, hey man, what's the deal? So I told this guy, I'm like,
wow.
hey, you might want to like take this into account because I don't know, the FAA, it's probably a big deal. And then he got a phone call from the FAA, like it was like it really happened. So it's they're out there somewhere.
wild.
I'm waiting for them to show up on the job site. I'm assuming after this podcast.
Yeah, really.
It'll be the next job.
Yeah,
You know.
Taxpayers' money, hard at work.
yeah.
Seriously.
Just keep your ducks in a row. You bear it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's wild.
But
So you're registered with the FAA. Well, you have to have a drone, basically.
Right.
But you don't have to notify them every time you fly unless you're under a certain foot requirement. I think that's the 400 you were talking about, right? Or am I
yeah,
wrong?
so this is one of those things, right? This is where you could spend hours on a Facebook group about about drones, right? Is that like there's a million rules, right? Because it's just like flying a plane in some aspects, right? At least the rules portion. So yes, airspace matters. Like right where we are right now is Class G airspace, so you can fly up to the 400 feet limit as long as you're, you know, if you want to go over a building, you could go higher than that. But there's other things that will restrict you, like you get the holding center and stuff like that. So I always tell people, even on the days that you're not flying in an area, like you know you don't need clearance, you should always submit clearance because now you have an electronic, you know, flight plan
Right.
that's scheduled. So it'll say like right at the end of your app, like nothing filed with the tower, but now you have a record to show the FAA like, hey, this is what I did. I treated it just like it would, you know, if we were next to the airport or something.
Do you look at Sky Vector for any of your flights or no?
No.
Okay.
All the stuff that I use is either through AirMap. The FAA actually bought Kitty Hawk, which is another app. And some of the drones have a way that you can actually fly through their app. I don't know. It seems weird to me. I'm not willing to do that. But overall, they do make it pretty easy for you to request airspace. A lot of it's automated up to a certain point. So, like, the real estate jobs, for example, we've had one recently that was like right near the airport, and I put in request for it, but they denied me. And it wasn't instant. It took days, and somebody literally at the tower had to say, like, absolutely not. And I was like, please, and they were like, no.
Yeah.
No.
It
But I
makes
get
sense.
it, you know.
For those that don't know, because there's a lot of lingo being thrown around, but Sky Vector is essentially, it's a giant map, and then on that map there's a bunch of circles, and then you can literally see like restricted airspace around DC, the airport, like you were saying, and then anybody that's flying in G airspace, which is basically just an altitude limit, but like Cessnas, helicopters, drones, all use G airspace, and it's the lowest level airspace to the ground. But it's wild because you can map your whole flight in Sky Vector. You can find all the small airports like Buffalo Airport, Lancaster Airport, and then you can literally plot where you would land and then your whole route, and then you would use that data and that route to then, like you were saying, tell the FAA this is what I'm doing. Then they can approve it, disapprove it. You can it's nuts, but yeah, it's what pilots use.
I would
basically.
say AirMap is a good one. It's fast. It's easy. It allows me to like have the drones detailed out inside already saved. And then I just select like this drone. I have like nicknames for them. Like this drone is flying and these are the stats and this is the weather report. And then it'll submit everything. But like what you're talking about, like right here where we are downtown with the holding center, like a lot like the DJI drones, that's another good difference. When you turn them on, if you're inside one of these zones, it won't take off. And you have to like put a code in from the tower that they give you through this app.
Oh, wow.
And I ask you for it because they want you, and then you have to agree to liability because, you know, you could be breaking the law, right? So they don't want to take, you know, they don't want you doing something like, oh, the app said it was okay, you know? So you have to go through that kind of stuff, whereas if you were an FPV guy and you didn't work for a company, I guess you could just show up anywhere, and who would really even know?
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, I have a tracker on mine that literally, like, everywhere I go, every flight, every movement, it's recorded and then sent somewhere, probably to China. You're like James Bond of drones. Just, like, get in and out.
Yeah, so how would you register an FPV drone? Is it with the, like, motherboard or something on the...
It's the same way.
But he doesn't have to be because of me.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
because of my license, and I have a tail number on my drone, when he flies, they're flying under my number.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool though, and especially because what's the highest you would go for FPV?
Well, legally it's 400 feet.
Okay.
And then, like, if we're at a building, like we dove the building we're in right now, the Seneca 1, which is 500 something feet tall. But if you're near the object, you can go up to 400 feet over it.
You can double it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Up
we're
to-
clear up to 900 something feet, you know, the building we're at right now.
Let's go down to Manhattan though and see what this thing can do.
Right, but then this is the weird thing, right? But, like, drones are illegal in New York City.
Oh my God! Whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a very
get me
old
started.
law.
But think about it, right? Like, you ever see the maps of, like, regular commercial planes? And you have, like, the app where you can track where they're going. And you zoom out a little bit, and you can see all of them across the United States. It's insane amounts
It's a
of planes,
zoo.
right?
Yeah.
So imagine, like, in just New York City, you're trying to control, like, those 2 or 3 airports, whatever they have, and then you got people, like, cruising around with a drone. And to be
Right.
fair, somebody hit a plane that was landing recently. Like,
Really?
maybe last year or the year before.
Could
And
these
the
really
plane
do that
was-
much, though?
Do you mean damage?
Yeah, to
We
like
talk
to-
about this. I don't know. When we talk about you, you seem to have friends that have more crash experience.
Definitely. Oh yeah, 100%. If we hit a plane going with mine, this guy goes about 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It'd be some damage.
Yeah, mine maxes at about 42 miles an hour, and I feel like if I hit a building, I'm gonna destroy my drone. Very low chance of there being like a huge damage. But we were talking about this the other day. If you took one of his to the face, it's That's my biggest concern as the business owners. I'm always
Sure.
like shutting this down, like stop right there. And so I was wondering, like, if somebody takes us to the face, how much insurance are we gonna need?
Yeah, what is the insurance process for doing this?
It's crazy.
Is
So
it?
like nobody will give you insurance. So I'm actually, it's weird. I'm an insurance agent. It just stopped doing that, you know, because I didn't want to do it anymore. It's insurance.
Wow.
You have no soul. Just want to say
Yeah.
that. But with the drone insurance, it's not incidental, which means that it's not like just a part of the business. It's the whole thing, right?
Sure.
Like it's our main thing. So in New York State, nobody will like insure us. So I had to go through like a special drone insurance company, and I have like a per job insurance. So like every time I have a job, I have to like submit what's going on and whatnot. But because we're very safe and we have a system, it's never an issue.
How many jobs do you guys do? Like, what is your cadence? Weekly?
Yeah, what's your tempo?
Yeah, so I would say that we do 2 to 3 a week usually, but only like one. Would you say like one every couple weeks for you?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say his are picking up because we started the interior FPV stuff. So like before when he came on, it was all what you normally see outdoor cinematic stuff and mixing in like those shots I can't get. But then it was like, why are we not inside? Like,
Right.
I want to do this in the wintertime, right? And so like we were looking at different avenues, and customers seem to really enjoy that. So
Yeah, probably because I seen one cool YouTube channel, and they're like, "Can you do this?" I seen this guy do it, and he's out in Colorado, and he's doing like those multi-million-dollar homes. You know,
what's funny about that is when I first started, I didn't know him obviously, but I had another guy that was helping me initially, and I used to watch this guy that was from somewhere, probably in Colorado, that had a drone channel, right? I was like, man, that's really cool stuff. And now looking back, knowing what I know now, it was like nothing.
Yeah,
Like
that
it was
sucks.
like very basic. it was not even that. It wasn't like we're so much better. It
Yeah.
was just not impressive.
Yeah, now you know.
But to me at the time, I was like, this is amazing.
Right.
So
So for wintertime and raining, are there certain drones that you can fly outside in the rain, or can you just not do anything at all?
So, I don't mean to keep taking things over. I don't know anything about his, but I can tell you in the DJI ones, the props are usually going so fast that it stays dry. So the only time that it ever matters is if it's raining hard enough that it's like raining sideways and the camera sees the rain.
Yeah.
Because it's a 4K camera. Like if you can see the rain, then you just want to stop flying. But like usually it stays pretty dry. What about you?
So for me, I do what's called like conformal coat my electronics. You buy this, like it's a silicone-based liquid that you brush on the electronics that make it waterproof. But
That's wild.
as Drew was saying, it's mostly like the filming aspect. You know, if you get some rain on your lens, it just doesn't really look the greatest.
Like I can say this even though we haven't released it yet, but we're doing a commercial that is going to be like in almost like a beer tap setting. And so we're working on flying through the tap as it's pouring.
Oh, that's cool.
So things like that, I mean, technically could happen without breaking the drone, but there'll probably be some modification for it. Think about it this way: when we fly in the ships, he hasn't done it yet, but he always talks about it. That if he needs to, he can put a bottle on here. Why is that again?
So for going over water, like if we were ever over a lake where it would sink and there's no way for me to get it back, I zip tie like a bottle to the bottom. And the GoPro is waterproof. This is relatively waterproof.
Those are NTSB approved zip ties, by the way.
Yeah. So if you crash, it just floats and you go get it back.
Oh, that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think about it, especially if your battery's low and you're like, I think I have enough,
Yeah.
and you don't have enough juice.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's worth the shot every time. So
Yeah.
as long as you can go get it back, you know.
I'm sure you guys have seen it. That one guy whose drone was dying, and he was over the lake.
The slow
and,
chase.
Yeah, and he's literally running through
Yeah.
the water to catch it, and he does.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's something that comes with the experience too, right? Like, all the cinematic drones are going to have an intelligent sensor. So, like I fly out over the water, and it'll say like, oh, you know, this is it. We got to turn around now, and then it'll just do it. Like it's like, no, we're turning around. We can't make it back. You know, and even then, there's chances it might not make it back. It thinks it'll make it back, right? But with him, it's all you.
Yeah. Well, for me, you kind of have to first of all learn how much voltage is in a 4-cell LiPo battery, because I have what's on my OSD. It's on screen display. It comes up on my goggles and it tells me how much voltage. So you kind of have to be really weary of how much you have and come back in time. So it's pretty involved.
Especially with a 3 to 5 minute battery life.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
So how much do these cost?
Ballpark numbers are fine.
Yeah.
600 each.
Oh, that's not terrible. I was thinking like over $1,000.
Well, you got to remember that you're not including the price of the GoPro, and then you don't have the goggles or the controller. He's just talking about the drone.
It's over $1,000.
GoPro 300 or 400, goggles 8, controller like 3 or 4.
Jesus, goggles.
Oh, yeah.
Goggles are the most expensive aspect, but it's like I have 10 drones, but I use the same goggles and controller for all of them.
Who makes the goggles?
We're not allowed to say. That is a hot topic at the moment.
It probably
and-
says right here.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
That's
it's
fine.
DJI.
Cameras can't say.
Okay, apparently they're DJI.
Why is that a hot topic?
It's just an inside joke about the goggles.
okay.
People just seem to love the goggles for some reason.
Yeah.
It just always comes up. Every time we have like a ground photographer or one of the customers that are like infatuated with his goggles. I think it's because you look like a robot.
Everyone thinks
That's
it's an
true, yeah.
Oculus or
Right.
whatever VR goggles.
Yeah, like a
are.
VR
Oh, that's
goggles.
a good point. They do think it's an Oculus.
Yeah, but they got the spikes on the side. I mean, it looks like it's out of a Bug's
and
Life, man.
These are the antennas. There's 4 of them. So
But
That's
you know,
wild.
look, I know that I'm biased because obviously he works with us, but I always say this, I mean it. Like there are other people that do it, but I don't think that you're getting what we're getting with Dan. Like he does it all the time for fun.
Yeah.
So it was like when he came to me, it was like, hey, if you ever need somebody, I got you. But it was like, to be fair to him, I'm being honest. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that have come to us, like, oh, I fly FPV, or I'm about to. This is the common one. I'm about to get my 107 license. Like, I can work for you tomorrow. And it's like, you got to kind of make your own way. But like with Dan, I don't know. As you talk to him, seeing his stuff, it was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
It's very different. So.
When did you start flying?
been about 2 years for me. And I started off with what Drew has. I started off with DJI Zoom 2, or the Mavic Zoom 2, which is just, your stable camera drone. And I started off just messing around, didn't know anything about taking videos, taking photos. Saw some FPV videos, and here we are, going into the black hole that is FPV.
Yeah, so you just fell in love with it?
Oh God, yeah. And you get yourself a simulator on the computer. It's basically a game, and you put your hours into that so that you're not crashing your investments. You know what I mean? So,
would you recommend that people start with a cinematic drone or a Mavic Mini or anything like that, or would you say you can jump right into FPV?
No.
Nailed it.
I would say you could jump right into FPV just because they're so different.
Yeah. Okay. That's a
They're
good
just
point.
so different. Like, I'll be honest, nothing that I learned flying my Mavic 2, staring at my screen, transferred at all.
Yeah, which is kind of my point of why I said no, is because I know that I couldn't pick his controller up tomorrow. I've done it, not with his, but with something else. And it flew similar controls, and it was like, even when you get it to start going straight, I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn left here, and I start turning left, and it's still going straight. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know. I feel like it's much easier to learn a cinematic drone, and in my opinion, for what we're doing, it's better because you learn the angles and the shots and things like that, where you can let go. If something happens, you panic with my drone, you let go of the sticks, it just hovers there.
Right.
So
And yours would just crash, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll start with cinematic, and then I kind of want your opinion too. For cinematic, what drone would you recommend to start with?
Always the Mini 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because it comes with all the professional features, the 4K recording. It's got like a 6-mile radius for range. You don't have to register it with the FAA. I think you still have to get a tail number. It's like $5, but you don't have to get like a license or anything.
Sure.
I don't know. That's, again, the rule changed in March, so you have to verify with that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the recommended choice. I mean, it's under $700 for the kit.
Sure.
So, I mean, that comes with everything you need, multiple batteries. So it's over $1,000 in stuff you're getting. It's really hard to beat. I mean, when the business started, we had a Mini.
Yeah.
And we were getting jobs with a Mini. I mean, the original one. So if you're starting now, the Mini 2 is definitely a starter drone.
Do you have to worry about wind with the Mini 2 versus the other ones, or no?
So it's weird. Like in the Mini 1, the answer is yes, but I didn't have big wind issues, right? The Mini 2 is supposed to have Category 5 wind resistance. But the argument there would be,
Flying in a tornado.
What are their categories? Because it's not the regular scale. Because if you look at like the wind resistance of the drone, it doesn't go up to hurricane speed. So maybe there's something I don't know educationally.
Sure.
But last time I checked, those things are supposed to go hand in hand when you use the term category, whatever. So I think there's a discrepancy on what they're calling categories, force winds.
I think it's marketing.
Yeah, probably.
That's just another
agree.
selling point for them.
like maybe it's their category 5. Like, we last time was category 4. This is 5.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the spec, it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
But flip side of that is I couldn't say that we have too many issues. Now, do you have any issues with wind with the FPV?
Depends. This guy right here, it's called a Cinewhoop, and it's got ducks on it so that I can fly around people, around objects that I wouldn't want to damage with these knives. And with
They're sharp.
with the prop guards, it kind of the wind kind of buffets it around a little bit. So this is affected by the wind a little bit more, and this cuts right through it. I could fly. I mean, it's not fun to fly in 20 or 30 mile an hour winds, but if we had to, we could.
Yeah, that's the other thing you got to think about, right? Like, warp stabilizer only works so much.
Yeah.
You can get the shot sometimes, but is it wise to?
Right.
You know what I mean? For what
Yeah.
you're
The
trying
footage
to do.
is going to be basically shot anyway.
Yeah.
So for you, what would you recommend for somebody getting into FPV? Is there a certain manufacturer you would go through, or how do you even buy these things? You just know a guy in the black market.
There's a
and he just
couple
gives it to you?
websites you can go off of. There's one that's called Get FPV. That's the main one I go through. Great website. There's another one that's called Race Day Quads. It's another preferred website. And you really just kind of have to start, like, YouTube's your best friend. You could learn so much because some parts aren't compatible with others and some are. But yeah, so this is my favorite brand. This is a Lumineer frame. It's Lumineer motors. All the electronics are Lumineer. So Lumineer is my go-to. But this frame is made by Shen Drones, which is a very popular one too. So there's a few different ones, but you really have to do your research to see what you like.
And how does somebody get in touch with you if they want your business?
Yeah, so we're available on Instagram, Facebook, right here at the tower. You can come to the 29th floor and just.
What are your handles on social media?
So on Instagram, it's highpeaks_AI, and I think it's the same on Facebook as well. We have websites, highpeaksimage.com. So
Cool. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for everything today. This is awesome. I would have a heart attack having one of these.
Yeah, I'm good. You guys do your thing.
Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. We
Thanks,
really
guys.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Go check them out on Instagram, highpeaks_AI, because they put some amazing content.
Yes, I do.
yeah, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.